I shot landscape photography out of a moving car in snowy conditions, and I'll show you exactly how I did it in this video. What's up guys, it's Project Photography back in the video, and today me and my family took a trip from San Francisco all the way to Lake Tahoe on December 22nd, 2019. And while driving there, I saw this incredible landscape with tons of snow, mountains, trees, everything that I could want in a landscape. And with that great landscape came really low visibility and lots of fog, and it was really hard to see. I thought I have to go out and take photos because this is an incredible landscape, and when am I ever going to be in this position ever again? Now, where I'm from, we don't have tons of snow or tons of rain or very crazy weather in the first place. So I thought I'm going to take advantage of this and just shoot photos. So the only option I really had with a moving vehicle is to shoot out the side of it. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did that in just a second. Now we're outside at the car, and I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of demonstration as to how I was shooting this. So first of all, we were driving at about 35 to 40 miles per hour because we had chains on. We didn't want to get stuck on the road because it was really snowy outside and the roads were really icy. So we didn't want to have to deal with that, so we threw on chains. And then I was using my Nikon Z6 with a 70-300 on here. Great camera, great lens. I've talked about this camera and this lens multiple times before. The thing about shooting when it was really snowy and windy was that there was a lot of water that kind of got onto my camera. Well, it was snow that turned into water, but that meant that the viewfinder and the EVF kind of had a hard time to be able to see through them. But the great thing about this camera is that the viewfinder is nice and bright, and I was able to see clearly through it, and I was still able to shoot. Another great thing was that the autofocus performed insanely well. So I was able to still grab focus on things that had very little contrast, if no contrast at all, because that phase detect system worked extremely well. And what else? One other thing I was doing was I was kind of shooting like this. I didn't have my camera or my whole body fully out. I was kind of here shooting like this, just shooting away, and I had kind of my lens out of the side of the car, not necessarily my entire body, so I didn't fear dropping or anything, but that was still a possibility, but at least that minimized the risk. So while I was shooting, I would kind of be here shooting, and then if I didn't see anything, I would kind of bring my camera in, kind of protect it from the elements so I didn't have to worry about that, and then when I saw something, I would bring it out and keep on shooting again. So that's kind of my little demonstration as to how I was shooting at the side of a vehicle. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The conditions were definitely not ideal, but I think I got some great shots, and you guys will see them in just a bit. So as you guys saw, I was able to shoot photos at the side of a moving car just like that. And now I know it's a little crazy to even think about doing that. Like, there's a ton of things that could have went wrong. I could have dropped my camera, I could have got my camera wet and dirty, which I did, but the great thing is it had weather resistance, so I didn't really have to worry about that. But I could have dropped my camera and lost it forever. But I just thought, hey, I gotta take this opportunity to go out and shoot photos. Even when there are not the most ideal circumstances in landscape photography, you just gotta go out and shoot them, because in reality, none of the conditions are ever gonna be the most ideal in landscape photography. Like, that's just the type of photography we work with. It's never gonna be ideal, and when you see an opportunity, you just gotta go out and take it, and that's exactly what I did with these photos. So without further ado, let's jump right into the first photo. So this was the first photo I took. So as I mentioned earlier, I was driving on the way to Lake Tahoe. There are just a sea of trees everywhere. There's trees upon trees upon trees, and that's one thing I really want to portray in this landscape, is just the vastness of trees. And I thought the best way to do that is to go edge to edge on a photo like this, because it really represented what the landscape was like and just the immense vastness of trees that were present amongst this scene. And as a landscape photographer, my job is to portray the landscape in the best way possible, and I felt like this was the best way to do it. Now, the scene in general for this landscape was super monochromatic and eerie, and I think this kind of gave a nice vibe, especially in this photo. Obviously, it was the lighting and weather that came up with this photo, but I think that kind of eerie vibe was a really nice look. So shooting at the side of a car meant that I had to improvise a lot, and there's not really much planning, and I had to really think quick on the fly. And one fault that I kind of saw was the fact that I didn't feel like I got the best composition in terms of widened out trees versus trees that were just green. As you can see, there are clearly a lot more trees that have a lot more snow on them versus trees that don't. And I think what I would have done if I had to like go back and think about it is I probably would have had of the bottom third of the frame covered with the green trees versus the top 2/3 of the frame covered by white trees. But obviously that's something that I can't go back and just fix. But if I had to go out and do it again, that's probably what I would have done. It probably would have created better balance, and obviously would have just been a better composition. Another thing I kind of want to point out was I kind of shot vertically in this photo. So I shot vertical because a lot of the, obviously all the trees were pointed vertically, so I think that shooting vertically kind of gave it this nice elongated sense and just matched the composition a little bit better. If I were to shoot horizontally, I don't think it would have been nearly as nice because the trees and the horizontal frame would have just conflicted, and I don't necessarily want that to happen. So shooting portrait orientation was definitely to my benefit here. But overall, I really like this image, and obviously shooting with a telephoto, I'm able to isolate certain subjects. So I was able to isolate the trees here specifically. So going to edge, I think was a good move. So we're gonna move on to the second image here, and as you can see right here, this is a super monochromatic image, which is kind of crazy because I shot this thing in color. I did not shoot it in black and white, but there was absolutely zero color when it came to this landscape, and that's something that was definitely portrayed here, this eerie sort of look. And I actually really like it, and I mentioned that in the previous photo, but I again want to mention it here because this definitely stands out more. One subject that I really want to make stand out was this peak, and it was really hard to make it stand out because of the fog, because of the lack of color. It was really hard to bring out this specific subject. So one way I was able to do that was by having this sort of leading line from the bottom left-hand corner all the way to the top. There's this weird line that kind of goes up to the peak, and it kind of shapes the landscape in a sense that it's able to lead your eyes to the top of the peak. And I think this worked out way better in vertical orientation rather than horizontal because the line kind of moves up rather than sideways. And I think having a vertical orientation definitely suits that way better. Having a horizontal orientation definitely would not do that as justice because it's not elongated in terms of horizontal way, but rather vertical way. One thing I wish I had was a longer telephoto lens because I shot this thing at 300 millimeters, which gives it a really nice compression, but I'm not able to kind of get the composition that I exactly wanted. If I were to crop this, I'd probably crop it like that. But I think overall the photo that I came out with was good and I really like it. But obviously there's only so much I could do. It's not like I could switch out lenses, and when I saw I had to take a picture right away. So not really much I could do, but overall I think this is a pretty nice image. So this is the last photo that we're gonna be looking at, and it is kind of a similar idea to the first photo that I showed you guys with the trees and whatnot, but this time I did not go edge to edge. And this is probably one of the better compositions that I took of the day. And this is probably my favorite photo of the day, just to kind of give you guys a sort of reference point. I like this photo a lot because of the clouds and the fogs, what they're doing at the tree. And I really like how the fog is coming out of the tree, which gives it a really nice effect. This photo is also very nice and clean, vertically speaking, because trees, again, are very much elongated in the vertical direction. So shooting this portrait orientation made a lot of sense. It just went well with the photo. Again, horizontal would not make sense for me. And I really like how there's just kind of like horizontal separation between each layer. There's horizontal separation between the sky and the white trees, and also the white trees and the green trees. So I think that kind of gives it this nice sense of separation. But one thing I really wish I kind of changed or did was I probably should have zoomed in more so that the sky and then the trees at the middle and then the trees at the bottom had the same amount of space. I think it would have made it much more even and nice and balanced. But obviously I did not do that here. I shot this thing at 195, so I definitely had the potential to do that. But again, I really like this photo. It just came out really nice, and I think it really represents the overall atmosphere of the initial landscape that I took. So that's kind of it for me talking about the photos. And overall, I felt like these compositions were very clean and very simple, in a sense that when you're using your telephoto lenses, your main goal is to isolate certain subjects or certain focal points in the image. Like, for example, the second image I took, I want to showcase the peak, and the two other photos, I really want to showcase the trees and what that meant to the landscape. So by using telephoto lenses, you're able to isolate certain subjects, and I think that's really important when it comes to landscape photography, because a wide angle lens isn't able to do that. It captures the entire subject, where as a telephoto, you're able to isolate certain subjects within the frame. Again, I really want to emphasize that a lot of these photos were obviously improv. I was shooting at the side of a car, so I couldn't really take my time and compose properly. Like some of the other photos, they weren't perfect, obviously, but I think that's what gives photos a lot of characters. The fact that there are imperfections, the fact that they're not always going to be perfect. Just in general, I feel like each photo doesn't have to be perfect, but exactly what kind of story it portrays. What exactly is the image telling you? I think those are more important than perfection will ever be. Because when something's perfect, I feel like it lacks that sense of character that imperfections give a photo. And that's something I really liked about these photos, just the kind of story it had behind them and the kind of vibe that it gave. It was very different and unique than all my other photos, and that's something I really appreciated about this. But I think that's very telling of landscape photography in general, and telling of who we are as photographers and what we should be doing when it comes to landscape photography. We need to understand that not every landscape is going to be perfect, and the conditions we find ourselves in are not always going to be perfect. But the difference maker is those who are able to just go out, put those aside, and just go out and shoot. What makes a great landscape photographer is their ability to go out and shoot in not necessarily the most ideal conditions, but still come back with great photos to make the most out of every single shot. And I think that's what I did here. And obviously none of the photos are perfect, but I really enjoy them. And when I look back at them, there's a story and there's a purpose behind each photo. So let me know what y'all think of the photos that I took. Let me know what y'all think of my analysis, whether you like this format of me talking. I'm going to be going out and shooting in the real world very soon. So those videos are coming your way very shortly. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comment section down below which photo was your favorite. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.